And then on May 28th...
They were probably looking for aliens.
Probably.
Aliens. The aliens are radioactive.
On May 28th, the case was finally closed.
Because I was telling Tim earlier, when he was telling me this, to say, I think it was aliens, because aliens, when they have cancer, they're radioactive. Right. This is me just bullshitting, by the way. I don't actually believe that it was aliens. I'm just being an idiot.
Well, we'll get to the theories and rate the theories based off of what you think it might be. Mm-hmm. So the autopsies go by. And
by the way, they were found in their underwear and t-shirt.
Yeah. What was it?
So
Most of them were found that way.
Yeah, I think that aliens raped them. I think they were raped by radioactive aliens.
Both Yuris were found in their underwear and shirt. And no shoes, just underwear and shirt.
Mm-hmm. Another thing that I think it might have been is, you know how, like, when people start going into hypothermia, they think that they're actually really hot? Mm-hmm. They might have actually taken off their clothes because they were starting to get hypothermia. And
well, that was kind of part of the theory, because...
But that doesn't explain how they were radioactive.
All the autopsy of those three claimed hypothermia. I mean, there was, like, a little bit of damage on, like, the arms and that bruising.
That doesn't explain why they were radioactive, though.
They weren't the ones that were radioactive, though.
Yeah. Is there anything on this mountain that could have caused them to be radioactive?
In thought. In theory.
In theory. To an extent.
To an extent. Actually, the first 4 that they found were all claimed hypothermia. The 5th one was claimed hypothermia, but they found like a skull fracture. Mm. But the coroner said that he wouldn't have died from that skull fracture. There was also like small abrasions on his arms and his face and all that. Oh, weird thing. When they found the first Igors, or not Igors, but Yuris, the tree that they found him underneath had actually put parts of their skin onto that tree.
Oh, that's
like
weird.
They were trying to climb up, running away from something.
That's weird.
Oh, yeah. We're starting to get into the really weird stuff in this one. Let's see.
Now, why would they try to climb a tree if they were dying of hypothermia?
Yeah. What was it?
Both of them?
Dubinina?
It had both of their skin on it?
Yeah, they both tried to climb up that tree. Dubinina, she had her foot wrapped in a piece of Krivoshenko's underwear.
That's weird.
That's
really weird.
Also, Krivoshenko's brown jacket that had been tested for radioactivity and was radioactive.
She was wearing his jacket?
Yeah.
Oh, well, isn't that sweet? He's probably like, oh, you're cold. Let me give you my jacket.
Here's the weird part, right? There was major chest fractures when they did the autopsy on her. Her tongue was missing.
Oh, that's not sweet anymore.
Her eyeballs were missing.
That's not sweet anymore.
And part of her lip was missing.
That's
now,
weird.
When they found her decomposition, I can understand like the mouth and that.
I don't like it.
But here's the weird thing, right? Oh, there was also a bit of skull fracture in that. But the weird thing is that the coroner, after the autopsy, said that the tongue was removed while she was still alive.
Oh, yeah, that's not sweet. That's not sweet anymore. No. The whole theory was, oh, here, honey, you're cold. Let me give you my jacket. No, shot out the window.
All right. Simeon Zolotaryov, he was wearing clothing. He was one of the more dressed. He also had a camera, which they had pictures, like leading up to the point, where like they went and tented up, and that was like it. No pictures of the incident at all, just all the way up to that point.
And he still had the camera with him?
Yeah. And they were able to take like the photos from it and see what in the world's going on. He had major chest fractures, and his eyeballs were missing.
Oh, fun.
Let's see. Kolovatov had exposed skull bones and a broken nose when they did the autopsy. He was also wearing a sweater his pants and waist sweater band was tested for radioactivity and was radioactive. Nikolai. I'm not going to pronounce his last name.
Oh, yeah, the one with the dash in it.
Yeah.
Why do you need a dash in your last name?
I don't know. It was just the thing back then, I guess.
Why?
Anyway, he had major skull damage, multiple fractures to the side of his head, and that would have made him not able to move. Mm-hmm. So it was just like the weirdest.
Yeah, and
it's horrendous death that like some of these had.
He was wearing most of the clothes of the rest of the group.
Yeah, he was wearing like the most clothes.
Okay.
He was wearing like good clothes.
And he had hypothermia.
Yes, they kind of said hypothermia for the rest of, or for all of them.
That sounds lazy.
Which is like...
That sounds lazy. That sounds like...
It kind of sounded like the coroner cut corners.
Yeah, the coroner cut corners. It sounds like he was being lazy. Oh, missing their eyeballs? Oh, better mark hypothermia. No tongue? I bet it was hypothermia.
So, what was it?
Oh, skull fractures. That's totally from hypothermia.
So the last bit of what they said on there is that the deaths of the expedition, or of the expedition members, were due to the series of mistakes by Dyatlov. On February 1st, he began the ascent to the summit at 3 p.m., even though he knew about the difficulty of the terrain. Furthermore, and this was Dyatlov's next mistake, he chose a line 500 meters from the left of the planned pass that lies between the peak... Or peak something or other in peak.
1079 and peak 880.
So the group found themselves on the eastern slope of the peak.
1079.
They used...
What was left of the daylight to ascend to the summit in strong winds, which are typical for this area, and low temperatures of minus 25 degrees centigrade. Dyatlov found himself in Dyatlov found himself in bad conditions for the night, so he decided to pitch his tent on the slope of 1079, so as to start in the morning without adding to the distance from the forest. You know, the dead people forest. To the remaining trek of about 10 kilometers to the summit.
Considering the absence of external injuries to the body or signs of a fight, as well as the abandonment of all the valuable resources, adding the conclusion of the medical examination for the cause of the deaths. It has to be concluded that the case of their deaths was calamity or overwhelming force.
What does that mean? I thought they were saying hypothermia.
See,
now they're saying overwhelming force. Overwhelming force of what?
See, my thought is if like the coroner has absolutely no clue, he just puts down something because he has to fill in that form.
Oh my gosh, or else he doesn't get to go home or something. Hypothermia.
Anyway.
So who said overwhelming force?
The coroner. Calamity or overwhelming force.
Okay.
Yeah, besides that...
The coroner just doesn't know what the heck he's talking about.
There wasn't any other external injuries, which, like, why would they have fractured chest?
I don't know.
Without any, like, actual...
It was hypothermia.
He even claims that their internal injuries would be that of, like, a car crash.
Mm-hmm. No,
without external injury.
It was hypothermia. It was hypothermia.
Anyway...
Because hypothermia can do that. It's like Jack Frost freaking like beat the shit out of them.
So the tent, when they discovered the tent and did a forensics on the tent was cut from the inside out for them to leave.
Screw zippers.
Like, kind of in a panic.
Zippers are for losers.
They said that there's other theories that came up if they were afraid of something in the tent.
There are other fairies?
Theories.
Fairies.
I said fairies, huh?
It was fairies! They died of fairies! That's what it was.
That made them decide they had to cut their way out instead of actually using, like, the front part.
It was the fairies. Those fairies are mischievous.
Clothing.
I bet it was actually pixies.
So, there was the two clothing of Kirvashenko and Kolovatov. Yeah, I read that. Both of them worked with radioactive material as a researcher and a miner, respectively. That being said, back in 1959, they're well known of the radioactive dangers. Like, they know that we dropped 2 bombs on Nagasaki and Hiroshima. Mm-hmm. And so they know the extent of the damage and the fallout and the issues with radioactivity. Mm-hmm. So they would have known to leave that shit behind.
Yeah.
Like, there's, like, big precautions for that. And even back then.
Yeah, don't forget your radioactive long johns. Keep you warm at night. Mm-hmm. Don't you know?
And so, now comes to the, like, weird conspiracies. I list on some of the... We'll start with, like, the weird-ass conspiracies. The ones that, like,
well, maybe we should go maybe we should go from normal, like...
So the normal ones?
More plausible to freakishly.
Okay. So, I put these in, like, reasonable ones. Mm-hmm. One is that some of them were actually KGB agents.
Interesting.
Now, the reason why is that...
That would explain why the coroner fudged, because if it was the government...
Yeah. So... It was well known at the time that the KGB would try to get undercover cells or try to recover undercover cells.
Like sleeping cells?
Like sleeping cells.
Yeah. Which are, like, sleeping agents are people who will go about, like, their regular days and go about their life until they are informed that they need to take action on something.
Yeah.
So those are sleeper agents or sleeper cells.
So they had instances of, like, CIA agents that were sleeper cells there. Mm-hmm. And they're trying to coax them out and try to get it. And that's one of the big things about coaxing them out is radioactivity. Trying to, you know, they brought something that's radioactive and they're trying to coax them out for this radioactivity. Mm-hmm. Because this is during the Cold War. Both sides, the CIA tried to do it. KGB did it. It's a back and forth type of thing. Mm-hmm. Which will also explain why there was a huge age gap, between the people. Mm-hmm. There's all these young 20-somethings, mm-hmm. and then there's a 37-year-old with
38. Them. I think it was 38.
Yeah. So it's like, well, why is this, like, 38-year-old hanging out with a bunch of 20-somethings?
Mm-hmm. I don't know. Maybe he's just a cool guy. Maybe he's just all chill and stuff, you know? It's like, hey, let's go climb Death Mountain. Mountain of the Dead, sorry.
That being said...
Death Mountain sounds like a roller coaster.
If it was KGB agents trying to coax him out, there would actually be some way of the KGB agents, their bodies not being there, or the bodies planted. Mm-hmm. Which that's not the case. They found out that they were those bodies. Mm-hmm. That it wasn't just some random bodies. Unless the coroner wound up, you know, covering it up.
Yeah, covering it up.
Which would make sense.
Yeah, especially if it was the government.
The next one, which I really don't think it's plausible, but it's not really explainable that well, is that the hikers were mistaken for escaped prisoners from a gulag prison. Now, gulag prison there is like a high security prison. Very rare does anybody leave there.
Mm-hmm. Plus, I feel like they would be wearing... Or, hey, if they took off their clothes, maybe they were trying to disguise their uniforms.
Yeah.
But
that
don't
being
you think,
said,
like, if you think that you would recognize their uniforms?
Mm-hmm. That being said, if I go a little bit forward here, I'll show you the pictures ever. Oh, no, I need one back. So, the pictures of one of these guys. Let's see if I can find a regular picture of the one Yuri. Okay. So that one. Mm-hmm. Yuri Doroshenko, right? Mm-hmm. You see the facial closities of that? Uh-huh. That's Yuri.
Yeah.
That's Doroshenko.
That could be... So his face is very...
It looks like a dead Doroshenko.
Yeah, but it could be somebody that looks very similar to him, because the way that they have... His face is busted in quite a bit. Like, he...
Well, that's decomposition. This was the hypothermia.
Not just that, too, but it looks like his nose was broken, they said. And...
Well, that's not Doroshenko.
Okay, well, he looks pretty messed up. That could very easily be someone else.
I think it looks like exactly like Doroshenko.
Okay.
Even with the missing, like, partially decompositioned nose.
If you say so.